Whoa, are we gonna do this all the way to the full number? 300 games. 300 games? Oh, this has gotten so out of hand. Okay.
300 aims, peacefully living in this backlog. Though shackled, they patiently wait so that one day, they may be chosen to roll credits.
No, it's grotesque how many games that is, and I am somewhat disgusted and impressed with myself for getting it this high. But with a little patience, dedication, and mental health issues, you too could achieve such a feat. I strongly advise against it though. It's just dumb really, but these 300 games in the backlog across Steam are separated into 3 groups. We have brand new titles that I've never played before, unfinished games that I have started but haven't run credits on, and DLC for games. For example, Cyberpunk. I've beat the base game, but I've never touched the Phantom Liberty expansion. Also, I say 300, but realistically it's much more, as I have a handful of collections, as in these games here are all 3 games in one, meaning I have over 300 games in my backlog.
319 to be exact.
Okay, this has gone on long enough, so how are we going to tackle this? Choice paralysis is clearly an issue here.
That one.
That one?
That one.
Warriors Abyss is a Muso action roguelike hack and slash game that scratched that itch for a new roguelike instantly. With quick and easy combat to pick up, you feel like a force of nature cutting through so many enemies in a matter of seconds. It has a really well balanced intro of explaining how to play while not stopping you from getting into it. The story is interesting, but I find with games like this, I'm listening to or reading through simply as a polite courtesy of what the devs have created. It also doesn't overstay its welcome, and it lets you back into the action as that's the main focus of the game, and the devs are very aware that is where the game shines. Do you see this? Do you know what's going on? That's right, raw, unfiltered, numerical dopamine. This gameplay is chaotic while also being pre-planned and pulled off with plenty of errors, while still paying off. You are surrounded almost all the time as you dive deeper into hell, and still you are the most dangerous thing around. Your attacks go in a way of light attack followed by charge attack. It has some depth to it, with each playable character having a bunch of combos that lead to different attacks. These charge attacks can also summon other characters that you will discover along the way to do their special. And all together will have a powerful attack called Assemble, where everyone attacks at once, blasting away foes with ease. Checking out the roster, I was honestly so impressed with the amount of playable characters as I booted it up. On a completely new save with nothing unlocked, I was still left with so many options to try out and find my flow with. Then I clicked here, and I was thinking, whoa, all these assists to help me through my descent into hell? No, these are all playable characters if not upgrades and formations, which is truly an insane feat to have in a game with a bunch of unique movesets and attacks. I have no idea if these moves are completely new or if they are taken from previous Dynasty Warrior or Samurai Warrior games and implemented to work within the mechanics of this game. And I don't care. With so many options and different flavours of attacks, I had a blast with each character I tried. I can honestly say that I didn't have a clue how to best build out a team, who was strongest, and most of the time what I was doing. I simply played and found a good rhythm with the gameplay that ultimately took me to victory. This was a phenomenal game, and I'm glad I started with it. Now I only have footage of Moving Out 2, but Moving Out 1 is basically the same with a few differences that don't really need to be showcased. Both of these games are insanely fun to play while also being so stressful. You pick from a bunch of different characters who are humanoid-like and head out to be the best mover you can be. It's a perfect blend of goofy humour and wacky gameplay that asks you to move someone in or out of a home. Windows are collateral when chasing the prize of a fast time, and heated debates of who needed to pivot a couch all mushed together into this awesome chaotic mess of fun. The game starts off super normal with emptying out a home as you get to grips with the controls, but the longer you play and the further you progress, the more insane it becomes, as you begin launching couches out of windows simply to save yourself the hassle of going downstairs with it. Each mission comes with time challenges, one for completing before the time runs out and a quick time for bonus. These also come with some optional objectives that will only become available to see once you beat the level. These tend to be either goofy random things like pack an item that isn't on the list, sink a 3-pointer like Steph Curry, or break all windows. There are also challenges that are more difficult, like not breaking windows. I rest my case. This game can be played solo or up to 4 players as you unlock new characters and outfits for movers and power through the story. No matter how stressful it can be trying to go for these challenges, the game is charmingly pun heavy with silly fun comments made by the characters. In a world that felt like it was dreamed up by a child who's making up this whole experience of moving home a fun adventure. One of my favourite co-op games for sure. Lift for your spine, not your knees. Oh, social distancing simulator, let's go! I remember playing Plague Inc. over 10 years ago, very drunk, laughing about the idea of engulfing the world in sickness until it collapsed in on itself. But I'm wiser now, and sober, so I'm just going to copy the blueprints of what happened a few years back when everyone was worried about the big bad C-19. Now the game isn't visually stimulating to look at, but it's very easy to put on, finish a run and turn off. You create a plague, you spread it around the world trying to eradicate the human race. But humans like living and fighting back by closing borders and preventing access into their countries. It becomes your job to correctly discover weaknesses and strategically evolve your nasty little pathogen until it kills everyone. How bleak. If you feel more like combating against these viruses, there's also a DLC where you work on a cure to help save the world. But with such a task and the stresses of countries falling into anarchy, it becomes this race against the clock while trying to manage your authority so everything doesn't spin out of control and the human race existence does rest on your hands. Like I said, how bleak. Plague Inc. Evolved isn't really one of those games you run credits on, but one you play and enjoy till you don't feel like playing anymore. It has been started and will likely be something I play from time to time, so I'm counting it as removed from my backlog. Bright Memory is technically more of a tech demo than a game. You can beat it in 30 minutes, and unless you want to go for all the achievements, which requires beating it 2 more times, those 30 minutes will really be all you need to know if you like this game or not. Now personally I didn't really enjoy this game, but I decided to go for the 100% as it allowed me to max out stats and see if I could get past this weird spongy giant. At first I felt like all the enemies were too tanky, then I started cycling through the weapons a bit more and planning which abilities to use when, and really focused on keeping distance when I could. I remember hearing about Bright Memory a long time ago, and it did get a sequel/remake. I don't personally know which, as Google didn't give me a straightforward answer and I've not played Bright Memory Infinite. But I do own it, so I guess I'll figure it out eventually. Now the combat is fun, but also not. It feels like Doom 2016 in a way, but with more melee and skills. Pair this with the fact that it doesn't have the greatest audio or visual feedback in terms of damage, and you're left with this underbaked experience that doesn't really live up to the hype. But this was one guy's passion project to really see what his graphics card could do in the Unreal Engine, and I think he did an incredible job. Me not liking the experience as a whole doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it isn't for me. I'll be checking out Bright Memory Infinite, so I guess we'll see if enough things have been tweaked, altered and improved, and maybe it'll win me over.
You go down! Kill the sister! Take the boy alive!
You can't keep running forever.
Oh, wait!
There's nowhere for you to go.
Plague Tale Innocence begins with an impactful introduction that runs you through emotions in the first act. You go from this free-spirited opening to dealing with grief in such a short period of time that reminds me of that opening from The Last of Us. Meeting your sick brother for the first time really drives home this disconnect between Amicia and Hugo, as they really haven't established a proper connection due to his illness and isolation. The intro act really drives home how barbaric and gritty this world is, and this atmosphere is carried throughout the game's runtime. Personally, I believe A Plague Tale Innocence would make an incredible show or movie. The story is really where this game shines though, and how immersive it can feel taking care of Hugo. I know people complain about the game feels more fun when you're free to act alone, but the moments that are dragged down because of Hugo make a great deal of sense. He's a child, one who's been mothered and isolated from the adventures of exploring as kids do. His panic and whiny moments feel real when you see it as a realistic situation you would run into. This would have killed my enjoyment a bit when I was younger, but nowadays I can really appreciate this attention to detail to make you feel like an older sibling. It can be annoying to have to slow down and tend to Hugo's concerns or lack of understanding, but this captures the feeling of being the responsible one. It really forces Amicia to make decisions that shouldn't be chosen but are needed to progress onwards. No matter the choice they make, she never truly gets to grieve what they both lost. but it becomes obvious the longer the game goes on that Amicia is still a child, and her replies and actions around Hugo are those of someone who's still very emotionally stuck in her feelings, and is uncertain what the best call is. I kind of laughed at the idea of rats being this chaotic threat, but seeing how well they're used and the environments they inhabit really displayed how much control they get when there's no light source. The plague that has washed over the land feels present constantly, not merely off the sickness itself, but how those surrounded by it become paranoid and brutal towards others. It showcases that broken sense of humanity that lingers when fear sets in, with a burn first and question later mentality. I have so much more to say about this game and could have easily made this game its own video, so I'll stop there and I'll say, A Plague Tale: Innocence was an awesome game and I wish I'd played it sooner. And this was my first attempt at knocking out some games in my backlog. I feel like I will do some videos like this from time to time where I pick a handful of random games, but I also like to do videos that are more in-depth and focused. I picked a handful of games that really had my attention, but also some games that weren't too long as well. Some of the games on my backlog are just huge games, so I'm going to need to start tackling them sooner rather than later, so they aren't all that's left at the end of this journey. With that said, I want to say thank you for watching. I truly appreciate it so much, and I'm grateful you chose to enjoy the content. Let me know if you have a backlog yourself and how many games strong it is. It would be good not to feel so alone on that one. And if you enjoyed and want to see more, then feel free to subscribe so you can join me on this journey. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely day and or evening, and I'll catch you next time.